No one could stand the billionaire's rebellious daughter until a humble janitor put her in her place. The gleaming corridors of Celestial Academy for Elite Beings had never seen a more insufferable creature than Tyra Nex. Her lavender skin caught the light from the crystallized ceiling panels, casting a soft glow that matched her silver hair, styled in an intricate pattern that screamed wealth and privilege. The daughter of Darius Nex, the most powerful alien business magnate in the Orion Quadrant, walked with her head held impossibly high, flanked by her equally privileged alien girlfriends. Their laughter echoed through the polished halls, bouncing off the walls like daggers aimed at anyone beneath their social standing. Tyra's uniform, a tailored white-gray jacket with subtle violet accents that hugged her slender frame, cost more than most families in the outer colonies made in a year. Around her neck hung a pendant of rare Proxima gemstone, the universal symbol of the highest alien caste. Did you see Professor Malkith's face when I told him my father could have him replaced with a thought? Tyra's melodic voice carried a cruel edge. The old fool nearly pissed himself. Her friends erupted in synchronized laughter, their perfect faces contorting with malicious glee. They rounded the corner, their expensive shoes clicking against the immaculate floor. Immaculate because of the man currently on his knees, methodically working a mop across the surface. Tom Heiress didn't look up as the group approached. At 30, his strong jawline was set in concentration, his muscular frame evident even beneath the standard-issue gray maintenance jumpsuit with its glowing blue utility stripes. His dark hair was cropped short, practical, and his hands, rough from years of manual labor, moved with practiced efficiency. Tyra's steps slowed as she approached. A familiar smirk crossed her flawless features as she reached into her designer bag and deliberately pulled out a wrapper from an exotic fruit she'd been eating. "Look, girls," she said loudly enough for Tom to hear. "The floor seems dirty." With theatrical precision, she dropped the wrapper directly in front of Tom's freshly mopped section. Her friends giggled on cue. "Let the trash pick up the trash," Tyra added, her large bright eyes narrowing with satisfaction. Tom's hands stilled on the mop. For 3 years he had endured this. 3 years of picking up after these entitled brats while they laughed and mocked him. 3 years of swallowing his pride, because this job, this goddamn humiliating job, was the only thing keeping his father alive. Something snapped. "Pick it up." His voice was low, controlled, but unmistakably firm. Tyra froze, her perfect eyebrows arching in disbelief. "Excuse me." Tom stood slowly, rising to his full height, a good head taller than Tyra. His eyes, a startling shade of steel blue, locked onto hers. "I said pick it up, now." The hallway fell silent. Even Tyra's friends seemed to hold their breath. "Do you know who I am?" Tyra's voice quivered slightly, unused to being challenged. "Yeah, I do." Tom took a step closer. "You're the spoiled brat who thinks the universe revolves around her. You're the girl who's never worked a day in her life, but feels entitled to shit on those who do. And right now, you're the person who's going to pick up that wrapper, or I'm going to make sure everyone in this academy knows exactly what kind of person Tyra Nex really is." Tyra's lavender skin darkened with anger. "My father." "Your father isn't here," Tom cut her off. "And I don't give a damn who he is. This job is the only thing paying for my father's medical treatments. Every time you pull this crap, you're not just disrespecting me, you're threatening his life." The raw emotion in his voice seemed to penetrate Tyra's carefully constructed armor. For a brief moment, something like shame flickered across her face. "You don't know anything about me," she whispered. "I know enough," Tom replied, his voice softening just slightly. "Now pick it up." To the astonishment of everyone present, including Tyra herself, she bent down, her elegant fingers closing around the discarded wrapper. When she straightened, her eyes met Tom's again, but this time with something new in them. Confusion, perhaps even respect. Without another word, she dropped the wrapper into the waste receptacle built into Tom's cleaning cart and walked away, her friends trailing behind in stunned silence. Tom returned to his mop, his heart hammering in his chest. He'd probably just lost his job, but damn if it didn't feel good to finally stand up for himself. What he didn't see was Tyra glancing back over her shoulder, her gaze lingering on him with newfound curiosity. Later that evening, As Tom made his way through the service corridors toward the staff quarters, a message flashed on his wrist communicator. His supervisor wanted to see him immediately. "Shit," he muttered, changing direction toward the maintenance office. This was it. He was getting fired. His father's treatments would stop, and all because he couldn't keep his mouth shut for a few more months. As he walked, Tom didn't notice the slender figure watching him from the shadows, her lavender skin almost blending with the dim lighting, her bright eyes following his every move with an expression that could only be described as intrigue. Tom stood outside Supervisor Krell's office, his stomach knotted with dread. The Andorian's four-fingered hand gestured him inside, face unreadable beneath its blue-tinted skin. "Heiress!" Krell's voice rasped through his breathing apparatus. "Sit!" Tom lowered himself into the chair, already mentally calculating how long his savings would last for his father's treatments once he was unemployed. 3 weeks, maybe 4 if they stretched the medication. "I received a complaint about your behavior today," Krell said, tapping a stylus against his desk, "from the office of Darius Nex himself." Tom's heart sank. Of course the spoiled princess had run straight to Daddy. "Sir, I can explain." "No need." Krell raised a hand. "I've reviewed the security footage. You were provoked." Tom blinked in surprise. "You're not firing me." "That was my intention," Krell admitted, "until I received this." He slid a tablet across the desk. On the screen was an official document bearing the Next corporate seal, a work reassignment order. "Effective immediately, you're being transferred to personal service duty for Miss Tyra Nex." "What?" Tom nearly choked. "That's non-negotiable," came a melodic voice from the doorway. Tom turned to find Tyra leaning against the frame, arms crossed over her chest. Her academy uniform had been replaced with a flowing silver dress that complemented her lavender skin. The gemstone at her throat seemed to pulse with inner light. "Miss Nex," Krell stammered, rising quickly. "I wasn't expecting—" "Leave us," she commanded, not taking her eyes off Tom. The supervisor scurried out, leaving Tom alone with the alien princess. He stood, refusing to remain seated in her presence. "What game are you playing?" he demanded. Tyra's lips curved into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "No game. You humiliated me today. You deserved it." "Perhaps." She stepped closer, the scent of exotic flowers wafting from her skin. "But actions have consequences, Tom Heiress." The way she said his name sent an involuntary shiver down his spine. "So this is punishment? Making me your personal servant? Let's call it an educational opportunity." Tyra circled him slowly. "You'll attend to my needs during non-class hours. In return, your salary will triple, and your father's medical care will be upgraded to premium status at the Next Medical Institute." Tom's breath caught. The Next Institute had regenerative therapies that could actually cure his father, not just manage his symptoms. "Why would you do that?" he asked, suspicious. Tyra stopped in front of him, tilting her head. "Because you intrigue me, human. No one speaks to me the way you did. No one dares. So I'm, what, a novelty? A pet?" Her eyes flashed. "You're whatever I say you are. That's the arrangement." Tom clenched his jaw, weighing his options. The money and medical care would save his father's life. But at what cost to his dignity? "What exactly would my duties entail?" he asked carefully. "Accompany me to social functions. Carry my things. Be available when I call." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And teach me about humanity. I find your species fascinating." There was something in her tone that made Tom's pulse quicken. This was dangerous territory. "And if I refuse?" "Then you return to mopping floors until I grow bored and have you removed." Her smile was sweet poison. "Your father's treatments continue as they are, barely effective and ruinously expensive." Tom wanted to hate her for the manipulation, but he couldn't deny the logic. This was how the elite aliens operated. Everything was a transaction, a power play. "When do I start?" he asked, resignation in his voice. "Now." She turned and walked toward the door. "My hover car is waiting. We're attending a gallery opening in the upper spire tonight." "I'm not dressed for..." "Suitable attire has been provided." She glanced back, her eyes traveling over his body in a way that made him feel both exposed and strangely powerful. "I think you'll find it fits perfectly." As they walked through the maintenance quarters, Tom noticed how staff members stared in shock at the sight of Tyra Nex in their domain. She moved with casual confidence, seemingly oblivious to their reaction. "Your friends won't approve of this arrangement," Tom noted. "My friends don't dictate my choices," she replied, though something in her voice suggested uncertainty. They reached the Academy's private landing pad where a sleek, silver hover car waited. The door rose silently as they approached. "One question," Tom said before entering. "Why me? There are plenty of humans you could hire." Tyra paused, her bright eyes studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "Because you saw me," she said simply. "Not my father's name or my status. You looked at me and saw someone who needed to be put in her place." Her lips curved into a genuine smile. "No one's ever done that before." As the hover car door closed behind them, Tom realized he'd entered a game whose rules he didn't understand. But for his father's sake, he would learn to play. And maybe, just maybe, teach Tyra Nex something about humanity along the way. The upper spire gallery gleamed like a jewel against the night sky, its transparent walls revealing the glittering elite of alien society within. Tom tugged uncomfortably at the collar of his new attire, a sleek black suit with subtle blue accents that matched his eyes. The fabric felt impossibly light yet substantial, clearly worth more than he'd earn in a year to his janitor's salary. "Stop fidgeting," Tyra murmured as they approached the entrance. "You look, acceptable." Tom caught the slight hesitation in her voice and the way her bright eyes had widened when he'd emerged from the hover car's dressing compartment. "Just acceptable?" he challenged, surprising himself with his boldness. A faint purple flush crept across Tyra's lavender cheeks. "Don't push your luck, human." The entrance scanner recognized Tyra instantly, projecting her name and lineage in glowing script. Tom received nothing more than human attendant beneath her credentials. "Charming," he muttered. "What did you expect? Your species has only been part of the galactic concord for 30 years. You're still novelties." Tyra's hand settled on his forearm, guiding him inside. "Besides, anonymity has its advantages. Watch and learn." The gallery's interior was a marvel of alien architecture, floating platforms displaying artwork that shifted and moved, defying human understanding of physics. Alien patrons in elaborate attire drifted between exhibits, their conversations a melodic hum punctuated by occasional bursts of laughter. Tom noticed immediately how conversations paused as they passed. Eyes, all remarkably human-like despite their varied colors, followed their progress across the room. "Tyra Nex," called a tall male alien with striking emerald skin. "What an unexpected pleasure." "Thalen," Tyra acknowledged coolly. "I wasn't aware you appreciated art." "I appreciate beauty in all its forms," Thalen replied, his gaze sliding to Tom. "And who is your companion?" "This is Tom. He's my new personal assistant." Thalen circled Tom slowly, examining him like a specimen. A human. How progressive of you. May I?" Before Tom could react, Thalen's fingers brushed against his forearm. Tom instinctively stepped back. "Fascinating texture," Thalen commented. "So warm. Do all humans run this hot?" "We tend to burn especially hot when handled without permission," Tom replied evenly. Instead of taking offense, Thalen laughed delightedly. "It speaks with such spirit. Tyra, you must let me borrow him sometime." "He's not for borrowing," Tyra said sharply. "Pity." Thalen's eyes lingered on Tom. The diplomatic exchange would pay handsomely for a human with such presence. Tom felt Tyra's grip tighten on his arm. "If you'll excuse us, Thalen, we haven't viewed the main exhibition yet." As they moved away, Tom leaned close to her ear. "What's the diplomatic exchange?" "Nothing you need concern yourself with," she replied tersely. The evening continued in similar fashion. At every turn, aliens approached, not to speak with Tyra, as Tom had expected, but to examine him. They commented on his physique, his coloring, the timbre of his voice. Some asked to touch his hair or skin, requests Tom firmly declined. Is this normal? He whispered to Tyra after the fifth such encounter. Being treated like an exotic pet? Humans are rare in elite circles, she explained, her expression increasingly sour. Most work in service or labor positions. Few interact socially with the upper castes. Lucky them, Tom muttered. A server floated by with drinks that glowed with bioluminescence. Tom reached for one, but Tyra stopped him. Not that one. Human digestive systems can't process luminol. Try this instead. She selected a different beverage, a deep amber liquid that smelled faintly of cinnamon. Tom sipped cautiously, surprised by the pleasant warmth that spread through his chest. Thanks for the save. Can't have you dying on your first night. The paperwork would be tedious. But there was something almost protective in her tone that contradicted her dismissive words. Their moment was interrupted by a musical laugh. A stunning female alien with pale blue skin approached, flanked by two others Tom recognized as Tyra's friends from the academy. Tyra, darling. The blue-skinned alien air-kissed near Tyra's cheeks. When Miri told me you'd brought a human to Thalin's gallery opening, I simply had to see for myself. Anira, Tyra acknowledged stiffly. I didn't realize art openings were of interest to you. They aren't, Anira admitted, her gaze fixed hungrily on Tom. But your new pet certainly is. Does he do tricks? Tom felt his temper flare. I'm standing right here, and it speaks. Anira clapped her hands in delight. Tyra, you simply must let me borrow him for my gathering next week. A genuine human would make such a conversation piece. He's not available for loan, Tyra said, her voice ice cold. Anira's perfect eyebrows arched. Don't tell me you're getting attached. Humans are delightful playthings, but hardly suitable companions for someone of your standing. Tom watched Tyra's face, curious how she'd respond. To his surprise, a flash of uncertainty crossed her features. Tom is my employee, she said finally. Nothing more. The words shouldn't have stung, but they did. Tom reminded himself this was just an arrangement, a business transaction that would save his father's life. In that case, Anira purred, trailing a finger down Tom's chest. Perhaps he'd like to experience some real alien hospitality. My residence has accommodations far more stimulating than the Academy's staff quarters. Before Tyra could respond, Tom caught Anira's wandering hand. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in being anyone's exotic pet or plaything. Anira's eyes widened in shock, so then narrowed dangerously. You'd refuse me? Do you know who I am? Someone who hasn't learned that humans value consent and respect, Tom replied calmly. Something your friend Tyra is at least beginning to understand. A tense silence fell over their group. The other aliens watched with a mixture of shock and fascination. Anira recovered first, her musical laugh now brittle. How charmingly primitive. Tyra, your human needs better training. Perhaps I could recommend someone. That won't be necessary, Tyra cut in, stepping between them. Tom speaks for himself, as is his right. The statement, so simple yet revolutionary in this context, left everyone speechless, including Tom. Anira's expression hardened. I see. Well, enjoy your experiment with human equality. When you're ready to rejoin civilization, do let us know. As Anira and her entourage swept away, Tom turned to Tyra in surprise. You didn't have to do that. Tyra's bright eyes met his, conflicted emotions swirling in their depths. Perhaps I'm tired of people assuming they know what I want. For the first time since they'd met, Tom saw something genuine in her expression, vulnerability beneath the privileged exterior. Before he could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew their attention. What now? Tyra sighed, turning toward the disturbance. Tom followed her gaze to see a distinguished alien male entering the gallery, surrounded by security personnel. Even from a distance, the family resemblance was unmistakable. Your father? Tom guessed. Tyra's posture stiffened. Yes, and he doesn't know about our arrangement. Should I make myself scarce? Too late? Tyra's voice was resigned as Darius Nex's cold gaze locked onto them from across the room. He's already seen you. Darius Nex moved through the gallery like a predator, the crowd parting before him. Unlike his daughter's lavender complexion, his skin held a deeper purple hue, weathered by centuries of ambition and power. His silver hair, the same shade as Tyra's, was swept back in a severe style that emphasized his sharp features. "Father," Tyra greeted with practiced poise as he approached, "I wasn't expecting you tonight." Darius didn't acknowledge her words. His cold gaze remained fixed on Tom, assessing and dismissive. "What is the meaning of this?" "This is Tom Heiress, my new personal—" "I know who he is," Darius cut her off. "A maintenance worker from the academy. What I don't understand is why my daughter is parading a human around at a social function." The surrounding conversations died as the elite aliens sensed conflict. Tom stood tall, refusing to be intimidated despite the power radiating from Darius' necks. "Mr. Heiress has been reassigned to my personal staff," Tyra explained, her voice steady despite her obvious tension. "Has he indeed?" Darius's voice was dangerously soft. "And who authorized this reassignment?" "I did, using the authority you granted me for academy matters. An authority meant for academic pursuits, not collecting human pets." Darius turned to address the gathered onlookers. "Please excuse this unfortunate display. My daughter occasionally suffers from impulsive decisions." Tom felt Tyra stiffen beside him. Her father's words were clearly calculated to humiliate her publicly. "Mr. Heiress," Darius continued, "you are relieved of whatever duties my daughter assigned you. Return to your janitorial position immediately." Tom glanced at Tyra, whose face had gone expressionless, a mask he recognized from their first encounter. She gave him an almost imperceptible nod. "Yes, sir," Tom replied evenly. "Thank you for clarifying the situation." Darius barely acknowledged his response before turning back to Tyra. "We'll discuss your behavior at home. For now, you will accompany me to greet the Galactic Minister." Without waiting for her response, Darius turned and walked away, clearly expecting obedience. Tyra hesitated, then leaned close to Tom. "My quarters." "Midnight," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear. Before he could respond, she followed her father, head held high despite the whispers that followed her. Tom found himself suddenly alone, the expensive suit feeling like a costume he had no right to wear. A server approached with a discreet exit card, making it clear his presence was no longer welcome. 3 days later, Tom was back to mopping floors at the academy, the brief glimpse of another life fading like a dream. His supervisor had reinstated him without question, though the alien's four eyes had regarded him with newfound wariness. The promised medical care for his father had vanished along with his reassignment. Tom tried not to feel bitter. He'd known the arrangement was too good to be true. What he hadn't expected was to miss Tyra. Not the spoiled princess who'd tormented him, but the glimpses of someone else he'd seen at the gallery. Someone questioning her place in the world. On the third night, as he finished his late shift, Tom sensed he wasn't alone. Turning, he found Tyra standing in the shadows, dressed in simple clothing he'd never seen her wear. A plain gray tunic and leggings that might pass for human fashion. "You didn't come," she said, her voice lacking its usual imperious tone. "To your quarters, after your father publicly fired me?" Tom leaned on his mop. "That seemed like a good way to get executed for treason." "Treason is a bit dramatic." "Is it?" The way everyone reacted when he showed up. Tyra stepped closer. "My father controls many things, but not who I speak with." "Could have fooled me," Tom resumed mopping. "What do you want, Tyra?" "To apologize." The words seemed to surprise her as much as him. "My father was cruel to both of us." Tom stopped, studying her. The arrogant princess was nowhere to be seen. This Tyra looked almost vulnerable. "Apology accepted," he said finally. "Is that all?" "No," she glanced around nervously. "I want to learn." "Learn what?" "About humans, your ways, your perspective." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because my father forbade it," she admitted. "And because when you stood up to me that day, it was the first honest interaction I'd had in decades." The confession hung between them, unexpectedly raw. "That's why you came to find me that night," Tom realized. "Not to punish me, but because I treated you like a person instead of a princess." Tyra nodded, a faint purple blush coloring her cheeks. "Will you teach me about humans?" Tom should have said no. Getting involved with Tyra next again could only lead to trouble, But something in her expression, a genuine hunger for understanding, resonated with him. "On one condition," he said, "my father's medical care, the arrangement we had." "Already done," Tyra replied. "I may have lost certain privileges, but I still have my trust fund. Your father was admitted to the next institute yesterday." Tom stared at her, speechless. She'd kept her word even after her father's intervention. "Why?" he managed finally. "Because it was right," she said simply, "and because humans aren't the only ones who can learn to be better." Their eyes met, and Tom felt something shift between them, something neither had anticipated. The attraction had been there from the beginning, but this was different, deeper. "When do we start? He asked. "Now." She pulled a small holographic projector from her pocket. "I've mapped out the security patrols. We have 20 minutes to reach the transport bay undetected." "You want to leave the academy? Tonight?" Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "I want to see how humans live. Real humans, not servants or workers. Show me your world, Tom Heiress." The request was reckless, possibly dangerous, and definitely against academy rules. But the way she looked at him, eager, curious, alive, made refusal impossible. "All right," he agreed, "but we do this my way. No special treatment, no pulling rank, no alien princess attitude." "I can handle that," she said, stepping closer until he could feel the warmth radiating from her lavender skin. "We'll see," Tom replied, his voice dropping lower as the space between them charged with unspoken tension. For a moment, they stood frozen, the air heavy with possibility. Then Tyra reached out, her fingers brushing his hand, a touch that sent electricity racing up his arm. "Teach me everything," she whispered. Tom knew they were crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Whatever happened next would change them both irrevocably. But as he looked into her bright, eager eyes, he realized he was already past the point of turning back. "Let's go," he said, taking her hand. The human district pulsed with life unlike anything Tyra had ever experienced. Where the upper spire was all cold elegance and calculated beauty, this place thrummed with raw energy. Street vendors called out their wares, music spilled from open doorways, and the air carried 1,000 scents, some delicious, others less so, but all undeniably alive. Tyra's eyes were wide with wonder as Tom guided her through the crowded streets. She'd abandoned her signature silver hair for a temporary black dye and wore a simple hooded jacket to conceal her lavender skin. Even so, she drew curious glances, not as the daughter of Darius Nex, but as an alien visitor in a predominantly human neighborhood. "This is incredible," she breathed, stopping to watch a street performer manipulate flames with bare hands. No enhancement tech, no gravity controls, just skill. "Humans have always been good at making do with what we have," Tom said, a hint of pride in his voice. "It's kind of our thing." They wandered through an open-air market where vendors sold everything from handcrafted jewelry to repair parts for outdated tech. Tyra marveled at the ingenuity, the way humans repurposed alien cast-offs into something new and uniquely their own. "Your people are remarkable," she said, her fingers intertwined with Tom's as they walked. "We're taught that humans are primitive, but there's nothing primitive about this. It's adaptive, resilient." Tom squeezed her hand. "That's the nicest thing an alien has ever said about humanity." "I'm not just any alien," she replied with a playful smile. "No," he agreed, his gaze lingering on her face. "You're definitely not." They found themselves at a small rooftop bar overlooking the district. String lights crisscrossed overhead, and the tables were mismatched but charming. A band played in the corner, actual instruments, not synthesized sound. Tom ordered drinks, something called whiskey for himself, and a milder concoction for Tyra that wouldn't interact badly with her alien physiology. "To crossing boundaries," he toasted, clinking his glass against hers. Tyra took a sip, her eyes widening at the unfamiliar burn. "That's it. Intense. Too much?" "No," she said, taking another sip. "I like it." As the night deepened, they talked, really talked, about their lives, their worlds, the vast differences between them. Tom told her about growing up in a human colony, about his mother's death during an alien flu outbreak that could have been prevented with proper medical care. about his father's subsequent illness from working in poorly regulated mines. Tyra spoke of the suffocating expectations of her caste, of a childhood spent being groomed as her father's heir, of the emptiness beneath the privilege. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, not as Darius Nex's daughter, but as herself. When the band played a slower song, Tom held out his hand. "Dance with me?" Tyra hesitated. "I don't know human dances." "I'll teach you," he said, leading her to the small dance floor. His hands settled at her waist, guiding her gently as they swayed to the music. Tyra's arms wound around his neck, her body pressed against his in a way that sent heat coursing through her veins. She'd never been this close to anyone, alien or human, who saw her as an equal rather than an object of desire or a political asset. "Is this how humans court?" she asked, her voice soft against his ear. Tom's laugh rumbled through his chest. "Sometimes, though court is a pretty formal word for it. What would you call it?" His eyes met hers, serious now. "I'd call it falling for someone I shouldn't." The honesty in his voice made her breath catch. "Because I'm alien?" "Because you're you," he said simply. "Daughter of Darius Nex, future leader of your corporate empire, way out of a janitor's league." Tyra's fingers traced the line of his jaw. "What if I don't want to be any of those things tonight? What if I just want to be a woman dancing with a man who sees me?" The air between them charged with possibility. Tom's gaze dropped to her lips, and Tyra felt herself leaning closer, drawn by something more powerful than gravity. Their first kiss was tentative, exploratory, the meeting of two worlds. Their second was anything but, a claiming that left them both breathless. "Your place?" she whispered against his mouth. Tom pulled back slightly, searching her eyes. "Are you sure?" In answer, Tyra kissed him again, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. Tonight, there was no princess and janitor, no alien and human, just two beings finding something real in a universe of pretense. Tom's apartment was small but clean, a single room with minimal furnishings. Tyra barely noticed, her attention fixed entirely on him as they tumbled through the door, hands and mouths exploring with increasing urgency. Wait, Tom said, pulling back. "We should talk about differences. Compatibility." Tyra laughed softly. "Our species are compatible. It's one reason humans were accepted into the galactic concord so quickly." "Good to know," he murmured, his lips finding the sensitive spot where her neck met her shoulder. "Anything else I should know?" "Just that I've never," she began, then stopped, suddenly shy. Tom's eyes widened. Never wanted anyone like this," she finished. "Never felt this human." Something in his expression softened. "Then we'll take it slow." They didn't, though. Years of barriers, social, cultural, personal, crumbled in the heat between them. Clothes fell away, revealing lavender skin against tan, silver hair spilling across his pillow. Their bodies found a rhythm as old as time, transcending the differences between their worlds. Afterward, they lay tangled together, Tyra's head on Tom's chest as he traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "That was," she began, searching for words. "Yeah," he agreed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. It was." Tyra propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face in the dim light filtering through the window. "Is it always like that for humans?" Tom laughed. "No, definitely not." "Good," she said, satisfaction in her voice. "I'd hate to think I wasn't special." "Trust me," he said, pulling her close again. "You're special." They dozed, waking occasionally to rediscover each other before falling back into contented sleep. It was the most peaceful Tyra had felt in centuries, until Tom's communicator blared an emergency alert, jolting them both awake. Tom grabbed it, his face paling as he read the message. "We need to get back to the academy. Now." "What is it?" Tyra asked, already reaching for her clothes. "Your father." Tom's voice was grim. "He's installed new security systems throughout the academy. Our absence has been logged, and he's demanding we return immediately." Tyra froze. "How did he know we were together?" "I don't know, but the message says he'll terminate my father's medical care if we don't report to his office within the hour." The happiness of moments before evaporated, replaced by cold dread. Tyra dressed quickly, her mind racing. Her father wouldn't have gone to such lengths unless he had something planned, something beyond simple punishment. "There's more," Tom said, his expression darkening further as he read another message. "Your father has announced your engagement to someone named Vareth Krell." Tyra felt the blood drain from her face. "No, he wouldn't." "Who is Vareth Krell?" "The son of my father's oldest ally," Tyra said, her voice hollow, "and the cruelest being I've ever known." The Academy's grand entrance hall felt like a trap closing around them as Tom and Tyra returned just before dawn. They'd barely spoken during the journey back, each lost in their own thoughts, their fingers intertwined in silent support. Darius next waited in his private office, a vast space overlooking the Academy grounds. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed the first hints of sunrise, casting long shadows across the room. He stood with his back to the door, hands clasped behind him. "I expected better timing from you, daughter," he said without turning. 58 minutes. Cutting it rather close." Tyra stepped forward, chin raised. "Father, this engagement is unacceptable. I won't marry Vareth Krell." Darius turned slowly, his expression coldly amused. "You misunderstand your position. This isn't a negotiation." His gaze shifted to Tom, who stood tall despite the intimidating surroundings. "Mr. Heiress, I'm disappointed. I thought you understood your place in our society." "My place is wherever I choose to stand, sir," Tom replied evenly. A flash of anger crossed Darius's face before he controlled it. Admirable human sentiment, misplaced, but admirable. He pressed a button on his desk, bringing up a holographic display. "Your father's medical records, Mr. Heiress, currently receiving treatment that costs more than you would earn in a decade. Treatment that can be discontinued with a single command." Tom's jaw tightened. "You'd punish an innocent man?" "I'd maintain order," Darius corrected. "Actions have consequences. Surely a man who lectured my daughter on responsibility understands that concept." He turned to Tyra. "The Krell Alliance will secure our position in the Outer Rim territories. The marriage will proceed in 3 weeks." "And if I refuse?" Tyra challenged. "Then Mr. Heiress's father loses his care, and Mr. Heiress himself will be blacklisted from employment throughout the sector." Darius's smile was razor-thin. "I understand humans are particularly vulnerable to poverty, such fragile creatures." Tom felt Tyra's hand find his, squeezing tightly. "Fine," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her fingers. "I'll marry Vareth. But I have conditions." Darius raised an eyebrow. "You're hardly in a position to make demands." "Tom's father receives lifetime care, guaranteed in writing, and Tom gets a management position at one of your Earth subsidiaries with full benefits and relocation expenses." Tom stared at her, stunned by her negotiating for his future even as she sacrificed her own. Darius studied his daughter with new interest. "Perhaps you've inherited some of my business acumen after all." He nodded. "Acceptable terms. The human gets his career and his father lives. You get the distinction of being Vareth Krell's wife. And one more thing," Tyra added. "I want 2 weeks to prepare. Alone. No supervision, no security monitoring." Darius frowned. "Why?" "Because if I'm to spend eternity with Vareth Krell, I want 2 weeks of freedom first." After a long moment, Darius nodded. 2 weeks, but you remain on Academy grounds, and no contact with the human." "Agreed," Tyra said before Tom could object. "Then we're done here. Mr. Heiress, your new employment contract will arrive today. I suggest you pack your belongings." Darius waved a dismissive hand. "You're both dismissed." Outside the office, Tom pulled Tyra into an alcove. "What the hell was that? You can't marry that monster." "Keep your voice down," she whispered, glancing around. "We need to talk, but not here. Meet me in the East Wing storage room in 1 hour. Use service corridors only." Before he could respond, she pressed a quick, fierce kiss to his lips and walked away, her posture once again that of the untouchable princess. The storage room was dusty and rarely used, filled with outdated equipment from previous Academy administrations. Tom paced anxiously until the door slid open and Tyra slipped inside. Without a word, she threw herself into his arms, her mouth finding his in a desperate kiss that left them both breathless. "I thought you agreed to the marriage," Tom said when they finally broke apart. I agreed to buy us time, Tyra corrected, her eyes bright with determination. 2 weeks of freedom from surveillance is exactly what we need. For what? Tyra reached into her pocket and removed a small data chip. To gather enough evidence to destroy my father. Tom stared at the innocent-looking chip. What is that? Access codes to my father's private servers. A hint of her old mischievous smile appeared. Did you think I spent my whole life just being a spoiled princess? No, I've been collecting information for years, waiting for the right moment. Information about what? His business practices. The real ones. Not the sanitized versions presented to the Galactic Concord. Tyra's expression hardened. My father didn't build his empire through innovation. He built it by exploiting humans and other species considered lesser by Concord standards. Tom's mind raced. And you have proof? Fragments enough to know where to look, not enough to bring him down. She squeezed his hands. That's where you come in. I need someone who can access the maintenance systems, the parts of the academy my father thinks are beneath notice. Like the janitor, Tom said, understanding dawning. Exactly. The Academy's central database connects to my father's corporate network. From maintenance terminals, you can access environmental controls, security logs, communication records, all the things no one thinks to guard because who pays attention to the cleaning staff? Tom shook his head in amazement. You've been planning this for a while. Since the day you stood up to me, Tyra admitted. You showed me what courage looks like, what it means to fight for what's right, even when it costs you. The admission sent warmth spreading through Tom's chest. He cupped her face in his hands. You know this is dangerous. If your father catches us, he'll do worse than cancel your father's treatment, Tyra finished grimly. I know. That's why I'm not asking you to help. This is my fight. Like hell it is, Tom said firmly. I'm in. All the way. Relief and something deeper flooded Tyra's expression. I was hoping you'd say that. They spent the next hour planning, Tyra outlining what she knew of her father's operations, while Tom mapped out access points throughout the academy. They would need to work separately most of the time to avoid suspicion, meeting only when absolutely necessary to compile their findings. As they prepared to leave, Tom pulled Tyra close one last time. Be careful, Vareth Krell. Won't touch me, Tyra assured him. He's not due to arrive until next week. By then, we'll have what we need. And if we don't? Tyra's eyes met his, fierce and determined. Then I'll marry him, and you'll take your father somewhere safe. But Tom? Her voice softened. Last night wasn't just... I need you to know that what happened between us was real. The most real thing I've ever felt. Tom's throat tightened with emotion. For me too. Their goodbye kiss held the weight of possibility, of futures both bright and dark, of risks worth taking for something precious and new. As they parted ways, Tom couldn't help but feel they'd crossed a point of no return. Whatever happened next would change everything. For them, for the academy, perhaps even for the relationship between humans and aliens throughout the sector. But for the first time since his mother's death, Tom felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. Not just for his father's recovery or his own future, but for a world where humans weren't second-class citizens, where people like Tyra could choose their own paths. A world worth fighting for, even against the most powerful alien in the quadrant. For 12 days, Tom and Tyra worked separately but in perfect synchrony. Using his maintenance access, Tom systematically downloaded records from terminals throughout the academy, shipping manifests that didn't match official reports, communications with unregistered vessels, financial transfers to shadow accounts. Meanwhile, Tyra decoded her father's private files, revealing contracts for human labor that violated every protection clause in the Galactic Concord. They met only twice during those days, brief stolen moments in forgotten corners of the academy. Each time their reunion was intense and passionate, the physical connection between them growing stronger as they risked everything together. Their second night together, hidden in an abandoned observatory dome, had been even more powerful than their first. A claiming, a promise, a defiance against the forces trying to separate them. On the 13th day, with Vareth Krell's arrival imminent, they made their move. The transmission needs to go simultaneously to the Galactic Council, the Human Rights Commission, and the Interspecies Commerce Authority. Tyra explained as they met in the maintenance hub deep beneath the academy. "Once it starts, we'll have minutes before my father's security systems trace it." Tom nodded, fingers flying over the terminal. "I've routed it through 17 different relays. Should buy us enough time." Tyra placed her hand over his, stopping him momentarily. "Tom, if this works, if we bring down my father, what happens to us?" The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Tom turned his hand to intertwine their fingers. "Whatever we want," he said simply. "That's the point, isn't it? Freedom to choose?" Tyra's smile was radiant. "I choose you, whatever comes next." Their kiss was brief but filled with promise. Then together, they initiated the transmission. For 30 seconds, everything seemed perfect. The data package began uploading, progress indicators showing successful transmission to all three authorities. Then abruptly, everything stopped. "No," Tom muttered, frantically checking connections. No! The terminal screen flickered, then displayed a single message. "Transmission intercepted." Seconds later, security alarms blared throughout the academy. "He found him," Tyra whispered, face pale. "We need to run." "Too late," came Darius Nex's cold voice from the doorway. They turned to find him flanked by 4 security officers, their weapons drawn. Behind them stood Vareth Krell, his pale green features twisted in a smirk of satisfaction. "I arrived early to surprise my bride," Vareth said, his voice silky with malice. "Imagine my disappointment when I discovered she was conspiring with a human servant." "Bring them," Darius ordered. The Academy's Grand Hall had been transformed for the occasion. Representatives from every major alien corporation in the sector filled the space, along with diplomats, military officials, and the elite of alien society. At the center stood a raised platform where Darius Nex now addressed the assembled crowd. "Today was meant to celebrate an alliance," he began, his voice amplified throughout the hall. "Instead, it will serve as a reminder of the consequences of betrayal." Tom and Tyra stood on the platform beside him, unbound but surrounded by guards. Tom's face bore a bruise where one of the security officers had struck him during their capture, but his posture remained proud, unbowed. "My daughter," Darius continued, "has chosen to conspire against her family, her caste, and her species. She has allowed herself to be corrupted by human influence, attempting to undermine the very foundations of our society." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Tyra spotted her former friends watching with a mixture of shock and vindictive pleasure. "The human," Darius gestured dismissively toward Tom, "will be sent to the mining colonies as an example. My daughter will still marry Vareth Krell, but will be stripped of her inheritance and position." Vareth stepped forward, his smile predatory as he took Tyra's arm in a painful grip. "I'll ensure she learns her place." Tom tensed beside her, but Tyra squeezed his hand in warning. "Not yet." "Before you enact this judgment," Tyra said, her voice clear and strong, "I request the right to address the assembly." Darius laughed. "To what end? To beg forgiveness?" "To speak truth," Tyra replied, "unless you fear what I might say." It was a calculated challenge. To deny her would show weakness, something Darius Nex could never abide, especially before his peers. "Speak then," he said with a dismissive wave. "It changes nothing." Tyra stepped forward, her gaze sweeping the assembled aliens. "For centuries, we've considered ourselves superior to humans. We've praised our technological advancement, our longevity, our supposed enlightenment. Yet in the 30 years since humans joined the Galactic Concord, they've shown qualities many of us have forgotten." She turned to Tom, drawing strength from his steady presence. "Humans are resilient. Where we see limitations, they see challenges to overcome. Where we demand compliance, they question and improve. Where we stagnate in tradition, they innovate with passion." Tyra faced her father directly. "The evidence we gathered wasn't just about illegal business practices. It revealed something more damning, our hypocrisy. We claim to be an advanced civilization while exploiting those we deem lesser. We preach unity while practicing division." "Enough," Darius snapped. "Your human sentimentality is..." "Is what?" Tom interrupted, stepping forward. The guards raised their weapons, but he ignored them. "Threatening? Dangerous? Or just true?" The audacity of a human interrupting Darius next shocked the crowd into silence. "I've spent years cleaning up after the superior beings in this room," Tom continued, his voice steady. "I've watched you waste resources that could feed entire human colonies. I've heard you discuss humans as if we're barely sentient. Yet in the month I've known Tyra, she's shown more growth, more courage, more humanity than any of you have demonstrated in centuries of existence." He turned to address the crowd directly. "You call us primitive, but we've accomplished in decades what took your species millennia. You call us emotional, but our emotions drive us to connect, to improve, to fight for what's right. You call us inferior, but you fear us, because deep down you know we're your future." A strange tension filled the hall. Several of the alien dignitaries exchanged glances, clearly affected by Tom's words. "This is absurd," Darius snarled. "Guards, remove—" "The evidence," Tyra cut in. "Show them the evidence, Father. If we're lying, you have nothing to fear." "I don't answer to—" "Perhaps you should," came a new voice. An elderly alien diplomat stepped forward. "The human makes compelling points, Darius. If there's nothing to hide—" Others murmured agreement. The atmosphere shifted perceptibly as more eyes turned questioningly toward Darius. Sensing the change, Heiress released Tyra's arm and stepped away, unwilling to be associated with potential disgrace. Darius's face darkened with fury. "This is a private matter." "No," Tyra said firmly. "This is about all of us, about what kind of society we want to be." She reached for Tom's hand, holding it high for all to see. "Humans have shown us a better way, not through conquest or coercion, but through courage, compassion, and conviction." The elderly diplomat nodded thoughtfully. "The Galactic Council would be most interested in reviewing this evidence you mentioned." "As would the Commerce Authority," added another alien official. Darius looked around, realizing he was losing control of the situation. In a desperate move, he reached for a weapon concealed in his robes. "Father, don't," Tyra warned, but Darius was beyond reason. He raised the weapon toward Tom, only to find his arm caught in an iron grip. Tom had moved with surprising speed, twisting the weapon away and forcing Darius to his knees in one fluid motion. "That's enough," Tom said quietly. "It's over." The security guards hesitated, unsure whether to defend Darius after his public attempt at murder. In that moment of uncertainty, several diplomatic security officers stepped forward, taking control of the situation. "Darius next," announced the elderly diplomat. "Pending investigation, you are temporarily relieved of your position on the Galactic Commerce Board. Your assets will be frozen until the allegations against you can be properly examined." As Darius was led away, his face a mask of impotent rage, Tyra turned to Tom in disbelief. "We did it." "You did it," Tom corrected, pulling her close. "You stood up to him. You chose what was right over what was easy." Around them, the crowd buzzed with excitement and shock. Several aliens approached, eager to speak with the human who had shown such remarkable courage, and with the alien woman who had chosen humanity over her own privilege. "What happens now?" Tyra asked, suddenly uncertain in the face of their victory. Tom smiled, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "Now we build something new, together." 3 months later, the Academy's Grand Hall hosted another gathering. This time, Tyra stood on the platform not as an accused conspirator, but as the newly appointed director of human-alien relations for the Galactic Concord. The investigation into Darius Nex's empire had revealed corruption beyond even Tyra's suspicions. He now awaited trial, his power broken, his allies scattered. Vareth Krell had quickly distanced himself, retreating to his family's holdings in a distant system. Today marks a new chapter in our shared history. Tyra addressed the mixed crowd of humans and aliens. "For too long, we've allowed differences to divide us when they should be celebrated as strengths." Her gaze found Tom in the front row, his father beside him, healthy, strong, fully recovered thanks to the treatment Tyra had secured for him. "Humans have taught us the power of resilience, of questioning tradition, of fighting for what's right," she continued. "In return, we offer our knowledge, our resources, our partnership in building a truly equal society." After the ceremony, as the crowd mingled freely, humans and aliens conversing as equals perhaps for the first time, Tom pulled Tyra into a quiet alcove. Director next, he teased, straightening the official insignia on her formal attire. Very impressive. I prefer Director Heiress, actually, she replied with a smile, holding up her left hand where a simple band glinted. If the offer still stands. Tom's answer was a kiss that promised everything. Passion, partnership, a future neither of them could have imagined when a spoiled princess had dropped trash before a janitor's mop. Humanity, fuck yeah, he whispered against her lips, making her laugh. Indeed, she agreed, her bright eyes shining with love and possibility. Humanity, triumphant.